Hello, friends. Hello. So, 6:30 and we begin. We begin a 10-week class together, and I haven't taught a 10-week class in quite a while. It's been several years. So, I am very excited to go deep with you, and I'm very excited to take each week and layer in the next bit of information. We're really going to be building together. And contrary to my usual Aries self, what I would like to do is really quietly and calmly and deliberately establish each level of looking at a chart and really come to digest what esoteric astrology is and how it can give us gifts and how when we work with it, it can be incredibly liberating. Um, so I want to say to you just a couple of things as welcome and introduction. First of all, many of you can't be on the class tonight, and it will be so with every class. So there will be a web page available to you that you can check. This will be uploaded by the day after each class. So tomorrow, this video and this class will be uploaded, as well as any worksheets that we work on together or that you need to download. All of those will be available, and I'll be sending you that information. Also, if you have any issues during the class, my assistant, Avi Summerland, will be on the call, and you can always write to her in the chat or ask her questions, and she will do whatever she can do if there's something technical going on. So she is available. And if something went on my end and I cut out, she will still be on, and I will re-sign in. So it's always good to know that. Good. Interesting today. We're starting, today the moon is in Pisces. And I almost never start anything with the moon in Pisces. And because Pisces represents endings, but it also represents synthesis. So I suspect that this will be the last time that I teach a class like this, because I will build from this class on upward and we'll all work together. You know, some of you will go along with me to new levels. So um, I want to look at this moon in Pisces beginning as a kind of synthetic beginning, so that all that I have learned up to this point, I hope to be able to offer up to you. And I hope that, you know, there's a wide variety of expertise in this class. And some of you are beginners, and that's gorgeous. And some of you have had quite a bit of experience. And I want to invite those of you that have had quite a bit of experience to just stay open to the new way that I say something, to stay open to the new way that you could offer up something to a client, to a student, to a fellow friend, because there'll always be new information. And you know, today is the rising sign, and today we're going to establish a lot, and we're going to, you know, there's going to be a fair amount of information, and we'll see if I can get through it all. Generally, what I'll do in class is that there'll be an hour of me talking, and then there'll be a half an hour of questions. And I might go a little bit over the hour today, but this would be the only time that I would do that. And then generally there'll be a time for exchange. And there are few enough of us. There's an intimate class, so we should really get a chance to work with one another's charts and feel, you know, you get some personal attention. So I wanted to share with you, as you perhaps some of you know, I'm a lover of poetry, and I believe that poetry and astrology work gorgeously together. And I hopefully will be sharing a poem for each sign a planet that we study, or sometimes for a sign. But today I want to sound the note of the rising sign. And I was lucky enough this weekend to go be with the poet and philosopher and wonderful person, David White. And I have some, you know, he read a lot of his new poetry, but he also read a few oldies but goodies. And I have to share one of the oldies but goodies with you, because in it, I believe, is a real joyous call to the rising sign in the chart. So the poem is called Sweet Darkness, and we are, at least in the Pacific coast here, we are in darkness as we begin this class. So it's called Sweet Darkness. When your eyes are tired, the world is tired also. When your vision has gone, no part of the world can find you. Time to go into the dark where the night has eyes to recognize its own. There you can be sure you are not beyond love. The dark will be your womb tonight. The night will give you a horizon further than you can see. You must learn one thing. The world was made to be free in. Give up all other worlds except the one to which you belong. Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you. And there's so many pieces of that poem that I love, but the parts that I want to sound out tonight are this line, the world was made to be free in. It's such a permission slip, right? The world was made to be free in. And one of the ways that we can be free in our world is to live the energy of our rising sign. And I'm going to talk about what the rising sign is with all of you, but I'm just going to sound that note and say that truly the deepest way that we can feel freedom and expression and passion and breath in our life is to come closer and closer to inhabiting the energy of our rising sign. And likewise, this wonderful line, give up all the other worlds except the one to which you belong. And again, I think that, there are different parts of our chart where it gives us a hint where we belong, but the rising sign is a huge one. And if we can live in the texture and swim in the texture and breathe in the texture of the rising sign, we know a lot about the world that we want to be effective in, and the world that we want to be free in, and the world that we want to give our gift in. So, esoteric astrology, which is what we are studying, is all about how to get your soul potential into your life, right? It's not about the personality. Well, we'll be certainly talking about the personality, but it is essentially the astrology of the soul. And it asks the question, how can the soul become more influential in the life of the personality? How can our best selves, how can the most beautiful part of us become more effective? And, I have to say, one of the things that David White mentioned this weekend, he said, let's ask more beautiful questions in our lives. What are the beautiful questions that we can ask in our lives? Not like, oh, when am I going to finally make some money? Or why is it like this? Or I'm so sick of this. But what are the beautiful questions? And I think that, he didn't really give any examples of that, but I took a long walk along the water and thought, well, what are the beautiful questions? And certainly one of the beautiful questions for me is, how can I allow more and more of my authentic, joyous, free self to express itself on a moment to moment basis, right? So our astrological chart is definitely a key to our freedom, to our authenticity, to where we can most deeply give our gift. So the understanding of esoteric astrology will illumine the path between how to integrate the soul and the personality. And when we figure out how to integrate the soul and the personality, each of us has a unique form of spiritual triumph, really. Like, how do these two energies come together so that we are of service, so that we are joyous and effective, so we are powerful and vulnerable, so we are giving the gift of the self with a capital S. And that is what esoteric astrology is about. And the rising sign, which is our theme for tonight, it represents the highest spiritual possibilities that can occur if the individual lives according to the qualities of the sign. So the highest spiritual possibilities that can occur if we really live at the highest level. Now, as we explore each sign, there will be a sounding of the most difficult aspects of the sign and a sounding of the highest aspects of the sign, and we're always somewhere on this continuum. But the rising sign asks us especially to show up in the most beautiful aspects and qualities of the sign. And I also want to say that, you know, the sun in the chart has much more to do with the doing in our lives. It has to do with the personality. Where am I doing my work? Where am I going to shine forth? Where am I putting my focus? But the rising sign has to do with the being. You know, it has to do with the quality that we want to emanate. Like, I often think, you know, sometimes I've had teachers in my life, or I've had people in my life, older people. I had a dear friend who was, you know, when I met her, she was in her mid-70s. And there was an essential quality about her that if I just went and sat with her and she did not say a word, I would come away with a deep sense of nourishment and a deep sense of being protected and cared for. And she didn't need to say anything. It was so much the texture of the light that was in her body that was streaming forth. And this is what I hope for all of us, that whatever is the quality of the rising sign, that we inhabit it, that we live it, that we are it to such an extent that someone would just sit down next to us on a airplane or a park bench and come away touched by the quality of that energy. Okay. So what I'm going to do is today is we're going to go through every sign of the zodiac, but we're going to go through it in such a way, a very thorough way. So for those of you that have heard me go through this before, there's going to be some new stuff. We're going to talk about detriments and exaltations and falls, and we're going to talk about, and I know that's all going to sound like gobbledygook for some of you, but we're going to talk about some of the details of the sign that I don't generally mention. But I want to establish this playing ground. Now, here's the thing. All of you have received your chart and you've received your planetary positions, okay? Now, what you need to know tonight is where your rising sign is, and that's right at the top of your planetary positions. My rising sign is this. But as I go through the chart, if you notice in your planetary positions that, for example, there's a list where you say, my Venus is in, my Mars is in, my Mercury is in, and they're all in the sign of Aries, you know that that sign is going to be very important for you as well. Down the line in the next 10 weeks, we're going to be talking about this. But for now, you can just, you know, listen extra with a little extra juice, even to some of the signs that are not your rising sign or your sun sign. And obviously you're here as a student of astrology, so you want to learn every sign. But, you know, you don't have to just sort of be waiting for the one sign that is your sign, right? Because something about astrology is that it's an incredible opportunity to offer compassion and to understand another human being. And so you'll get to a point where you start asking everybody their sun sign or their, you know, find out their rising sign, because you want to learn about how people are working with the energies available in their chart. And you know, sometimes when people really irritate us, they're in the wretchedness of a particular sign. But if you can open your heart and feel the compassion to what's possible for them, to where they could actually, how they could actually manifest in a particular sign, that's a gorgeous thing to know, you know. So astrology creates a lot of compassion, both for the self and for your family and for your friends and for others. So it's wonderful to get a sense of all the different signs of the zodiac. So I'm going to be very so systematic about it in a very Virgo way, which again is unlike me. But I'll try to do, if you're taking notes, which I would recommend, I'm going to try to do these in order for each sign. We're also going to do it in an unusual way. We're going to look at oppositions as we go around. So we're not just going to go right around the zodiac. We're going to look at Aries, Libra, Taurus, Scorpio, because the oppositions are incredibly important. The Tibetan Djwhal Khul, who wrote the book Esoteric Astrology, along with Alice Bailey, he basically says that eventually there will not be 12 signs of the zodiac. There will only be 6, because these polarities will come together and forge one sign. So we'll look at that. Okay, so without further ado, also as we go along, if you have a question, you'll see on your dashboard, there's a little hand. You can raise your hand, and when it comes time for questions, I will address the questions in order, all right? So don't hesitate to ask questions, or to at least raise your hand, and I'll get to it as we go. Okay, so as we begin, the first sign of the zodiac is Aries, and Aries is springtime, and the element for Aries is fire. Now, fire brings in passion, it brings in creativity, it brings in dynamism, it brings in passion. The fire in Aries is like a match. It's like a fresh start. Aries is springtime, fresh start, a match being lit. The mode of activity for an Aries is cardinal. Now, I'm going to explain all of these things, but basically there are 3 modes of activity: cardinal, mutable, and fixed, okay? So Aries is a cardinal sign, and what that means is it's one of the 4 signs that is about initiative and coming forward, and it has a lot to do with a kind of driving forward, not always necessarily linearly, but it has to do with the energy of starting a season. So the 4 signs that are connected, that are cardinal signs, all start a season. So Aries starts springtime, and you better believe you need some extra energy to be the bud bursting through the winter, and to start afresh. So it's a cardinal sign. And I'll point out the other cardinal signs as we go. Now, some of the really tricky things about Aries, or the difficulty or the wretchedness, is that it's impulsive. They're fighters. They bash their heads into everything. They want to be first. They are impatient. They're driving and efforting, and almost a kind of teenage quality of impatience, and a sense of, here I am, watch out, I'm bashing through. So there's a sense, there's a desire to engage in combat. So when Aries in your chart is manifesting in a kind of wretched way, that's what we're seeing. Now, it's interesting. I was looking at our class, this particular class, and no one has Aries rising or Aries sun. I, however, am an Aries, so I will bash forward for you. But the quality surely is, I am a pioneer, I'm going it alone, I am, and I will do whatever it takes. And even the glyph of Aries is this ram's horns, and it wants to bash with the horns and say, I win, I'm the masculine ruler. And Aries is a masculine sign. And the signs alternate: masculine, feminine, masculine, feminine, masculine, feminine, but it's a masculine sign. And the planetary ruler at the personality level, and here's another really important thing about esoteric astrology: there are actually 3 rulers for each sign. We're only going to look at 2 of them. The first ruler that I will always talk about is the personality ruler. It's the one that we have to deal with in a day-to-day way. The second ruler that I'll talk about is the esoteric ruler, and it is the energy that is possible to invoke. It is the energy that's possible to work with. It's the energy that we work with when we are coming from our self with a capital S, when we are working from the perspective of the soul. So interestingly, the mantram for Oh, wait. So let me just say that Mars is the personality ruler. And Mars, we're going to learn a lot about Mars week 5 or something like that. But Mars is the planet of drive and aspiration and the warrior and watch out because here I am. Again, it's that kind of bashing forward energy and that assertion. So it's assertion, it's fight, it's aspiration. And Aries and Mars together. If you have Mars in Aries, you better believe, boom, you are gonna, you have power, and you have the power to do a good hook, jab, hook, okay, or whatever it is. So the mantram on the ordinary wheel. In other words, there were different phrases given by the Tibetan for the personality level and the soul level. So at the personality level, the phrase is, and the word said, let form again be sought. So Aries, again, this affirms this energy at the personality level of just let me just get in there and bash around with form. Let me fight. Let me work, like work in the material world and let me dive in and create. Even Aries loves to create new forms. It loves to, Bach had 15 children or 16 children, and he was an Aries. You love to create the new in form. So that phrase is let form again be sought. Let's dive in again. Let's look at some of the positive traits of Aries. Some of the positive traits are they're pioneers, they're initiators, they are willing to they have strong minds and they want to put forth their bold new ideas into the world. That's why Mercury is the esoteric ruler. Mars and Mercury, very important planetary rulers. And Mercury says, I have this new, sudden, exciting, dynamic idea that wants like a seed to be planted. That's what Aries does, is plants the seed. So the phrase for Aries is, I come forth, and from the plane of mind, I rule. Okay. So it comes forth from the mind. And I always say, if you want to invoke Aries, and frankly, you can choose to invoke any of these energies on any given day. If you need a little bit of daring and gumption, invoke Aries. If you need a little bit of like, I come forth, invoke Aries. And even just use, I come forth. I come forth. It doesn't even have to be, I come forth and from the plane of mind I rule. It can just be, I come forth, right? So feel free to invoke these energies as you need them, because they're available to you. And on that same note, the color for Aries is a carmine red. It's a bright, bright red. And I was thinking today, whenever you want to call in a particular energy, wear that color, surround yourself with that color. Even close your eyes and invoke that color. So Aries is red, blood red, carmine red. Okay. Now, I want to presence the rays, all right? And this is a huge field, but it's important. I just want to presence the 7 rays, and each sign has 7 primary energies, 1 or 2 or 3 of 7 primary energies pouring through it. So let me just sound that note. Let it be a mystery for you right now, and we'll talk about it more. But let me just say that pouring through Aries is the first ray of will and power and the 7th ray of ceremonial order. So it's the first ray of coming forward with full power, and the 7th ray of saying, I have a new idea, a new plan, and I want to manifest it on earth. There are, 3 major ingredients, probably more than that, but in esoteric astrology. One of them is the rays, one of them is the planets, and one of them is the signs, and how those all work together. And I'll keep fleshing out the rays as we go, but right now I just want to sound the note of the rays. So just right now, write ray 1 and 7, go through Aries, and we'll keep talking about that. So also, I want to sound the note of where Aries feels is most effective. And as I said, Mars and Mercury love to work through Aries. Those are ruling planets. So if you were an Aries rising, you better believe you look at Mars and Mercury in your chart. But let's look at where Aries is exalted. Let's put it this way. Exaltations are the places where certain planets, where they love to work through a particular sign, but they don't rule that sign. So the sun is exalted in Aries. The sun loves to be in Aries, though it does not rule Aries. So sun in Aries is a very easy combination, okay? However, Mars is in its detriment in Aries. Mars does not like to work through Aries. Mars is the warrior, is I am lying to you. I don't know. I'm lying to you, Mars. I'm going off on a riff of how Mars is in Aries, and it's Mars is actually the ruler of Aries. So there's no detriment there. Okay, Saturn falls in Aries. Saturn falls in Aries, which means that it does not like to be in Aries because Aries wants to move forward, and Saturn is a planet of structure. Saturn is a planet of discipline. Saturn is a planet of limits, and Aries does not like limits. So we're going to be talking about detriments, exaltations, and falls. And again, I'll flesh them out as we go over the 10 weeks. Right now, we're just going to sound them forth. But for now, the sun is exalted in Aries, and Saturn falls in Aries. Now, when I say it falls, yeah, it's hard on the personality. But we have to work with our falls and detriments. And if we work with them, we grow like crazy. I have a ton of planets that are in detriment or are falling in certain signs. But what it means is that we have the opportunity to look at it from a spiritual perspective. With Saturn and Aries at a personality perspective, it's like, oh, you just feel held back. You feel held back. And I want to move forward. I want to assert. I want to aspire. But Saturn limits you. Ultimately, however, from a spiritual perspective, it gives you it gives you a driving forward with a lot of patience. It brings endurance. It brings the warrior and the wise one. Okay. I'm going to have to go a little bit faster than this, but it's always good to establish the initial energy. So that's Aries. And let me also just sound the note that Aries is associated with the first house of the zodiac. And I'm just going to show you a little picture here for those of you that are brand new. The chart that you have, this little first section of the zodiac of the chart is the first house, okay? And Aries is associated with that area. More on that to come. Your rising sign is right here. It's the furthest point left in the circle, and that's what we're talking about tonight. But Aries is associated with this first area. So if you had a ton of planets in that first area, you have a lot of Aries energy, regardless of whether you have planets in Aries or not. You have a lot of Aries energy if you have a strong first house, okay? All right, deep breath. Now we're going to journey across the zodiac and we're going to Libra. Libra is the sign opposite Aries. And it is connected with the 7th house. And I'm going to go ahead and just pull it up again. I should have left it up there to show you. But here's the 7th house, all right? And here's the first house and the 7th house. The way that Aries and Libra are connected are that Aries has so much to do with the self and Libra has so much to do with the other. So this axis is considered the relationship axis, self and others. So every axis, every polarity has a similarity. And this has to do with the self alone versus the self in relationship. Okay. Libra. Libra is also Libra is an air sign. I'm going to do it in order. Libra is an air sign. So it has to do with exchange and relationship, exchange of information, the dance between two people. Air has to do with communication. It's wind, it's breath, it's how we communicate. Aries is fire, Libra is air. The cross that it's on or the way that it moves is also cardinal. Okay, Libra is also a cardinal energy, which a lot of people don't necessarily get. But in fact, Libra moves forward just as assertively in relationship as Aries moves forward alone. So it has just as much gumption, but the gumption and the forward movement has to do with bringing peace and right relationships as opposed to bringing the self forward into space, right? Libra starts the fall. So it initiates autumn. Some of the trickier parts of Libra initially, or the wretched parts of Libra, have a lot to do with uh, codependency, indecision, giving up your power, losing yourself in another, wanting to make nice, wanting to make peace, wanting to make it all beautiful and calm and lovely, not being able to decide. The planetary ruler at the personality level is Venus. Now, Venus is a beautiful planet. It has a lot to do with social grace and ease and getting people communicating and talking, and it has a lot to do with feminine beauty. And so Venus is a lovely planet. However, it can have also a lot to do with, at the early stages, a lot to do with pleasure or just merging with anyone just to merge. Libras just want to be in relationship at an early stage, and they're sometimes don't pay a whole lot of attention to who they are choosing to be in relationship with. They just lose themselves in another. And Venus can, at its early stages, can sort of mush and just search for pleasure. Okay. However, as it evolves, there's a lot of social grace and diplomacy with Venus. Some of the positive traits of Libra. Libra is really interested in right relationship. I don't want to skip the personality mantra for Libra is, and this is a good one. And the word said, "Let choice be made." Okay, so that's really just indicating early on. Librans don't want to make a choice. They sit on the fence. They're the elephant that sits on the fence until the fence breaks. They weigh things forever. They lean in one direction and then they're like, and they lean in the other direction, and they can just never make the choice. So the word said, let choice be made, because otherwise you'll be in limbo forever. Because in Libra, you could be in limbo forever unless you are choosing the next correct step. All right. At its highest level, however, Libra has a great deal to do with making right choices in relationship, following the laws of right relationship, and paying attention to creating relationships based on creativity, based on love, based on um, a shared sense of giving our gifts, not solely just based on lust or coming together for less than laudable reasons. Doesn't mean you can't have some lust in the relationship. It just means, like, why are you coming together and what do you wish to build? And Libra rules what is fair, what is just, what is right. It's very interested in equality. um, the phrase for Libra, and it's a very powerful phrase, is I choose the way which leads between the two great lines of force. Okay, so it chooses this noble middle path between these huge opposites. Libras can at first feel completely out of whack in their lives. They can feel completely like they're swinging from pole to pole. But as they grow and as they evolve, and as they authentically express themselves and choose partners that are also authentically expressing themselves, they're making their way through. And that is why the planetary ruler, the esoteric ruler, is Uranus for Libra. Uranus rules Libra at the esoteric level, and Uranus wants authenticity and freedom, and it wants connection, a very democratic connection. It's not interested in a hierarchical relationship. It's interested in relationship of equals. It's interested in all of us looking at one another and saying, we're all, at a certain level, we are all of the same fabric. And Uranus asks for that. And Uranus brings in relationships that are soul relationships and not just personality relationships. So now the color for Libra is indigo or blue-green. Okay, so for Aries, that Mars energy, it's red, but for Libra, it's indigo, this deep blue color, or blue-green. And the ray which comes through Libra is the third ray. of active intelligence. Librans, we talk about all this stuff about how they merge and they love relationships, but there's also something about Libra that has everything to do with intelligence and the capacity to detach, and the capacity to there's a kind of coolness to Libra even as well. As you evolve, it's not just about mushing together, it's about a coolness and an awareness of who and how people should come together. So it brings in the energy of active intelligence. So now the as far as the exaltations and the detriments in Libra, this is where Mars is in detriment, all right? So Mars, this bloody battle warrior, does not like to be in the sign of peace. It does not like to be there. It's like, what do you mean I have to be in the sign of peace? What do you mean I have to fight for peace? Now, at the highest levels, that's what people with Mars and Libra want to do, is they want to fight for peace. They want to fight for what is right. They want to fight for right relationship. But the part of the personality Mars does not want to be in Libra, so it's considered in detriment. And detriment is always the sign that is not the ruling sign. It's opposite the ruling sign. So for example, Mars rules Aries, Libra is opposite Aries, so Mars will be in detriment in Libra. It will always be in detriment in the sign opposite the ruling sign. So Mars is in detriment in Libra. Saturn, however, is exalted in Libra. It loves to be in Libra because Saturn rules the law and Libra has to do with the law. So it's very much about, these two energies work beautifully together. Saturn is the executor of the Libran law. And you might find people with Saturn and Libra that love the law, that are lawyers, that work with the law in some way. So Saturn loves to be in Libra. It does not rule Libra, it rules Capricorn, but it loves to be in Libra, exaltation. And the sun falls in Libra because the sun is the self, the sun is the personality. And the minute you put it in Libra, you have to consider the other. You have to consider another person, right? So it doesn't particularly love to be in Libra, but it learns how to bring the whole self to Libra so that, you grow with the sun in Libra. You learn how to not just be the separated self and not lose yourself in another. You learn how to remain the authentic self in relationship. But the sun doesn't initially love to be in Libra. It's exalted in Aries because Aries is the self, right? Okay. All right, moving along. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Taurus. It's Aries, Taurus, Gemini. So we're going to go back to the Taurus, which is an earth sign. And earth is all about practicality, groundedness, steadfastness, slowness, fixity. And in fact, Taurus is a fixed sign. Aries and Libra are cardinal signs. Taurus is a fixed sign, okay? And it means that it roots, it grounds, it does not like to have lots of extraneous movement. All the fixed signs are at the center of a season. So Taurus is at the center of spring. It's like beauty and lushness and wildflowers blooming, and it does not want to move from that. So as you can even feel into it, some of the more difficult qualities of Taurus are its fixity, its stubbornness, its immobility, its will, its don't budge me, I will decide when I'm going to move, its love of pleasure. Now, on one hand, that can be gorgeous, but you can also get stuck in, Cookie Monster land or something, right? Where it's just like, you want to eat and you want to just be full of the sensual comforts, and you never leave your bedroom, or you never leave your living room, or you never leave your kitchen, because there's so much that wants to be satisfied. So, Taurus can get stuck in the physical, sensual world, and it can get stuck in its will and stubbornness. And it can have, and it really roots in a fight. It's like, if Aries attacks, Taurus just roots in. And that's why the personality phrase for Taurus is, and the word said, let struggle be undismayed. So let struggle continue. Go ahead, I'll struggle. Go ahead, I'll, and it's also the struggle of desire and uh wanting satisfaction and not always getting satisfaction. So it's like it can be quite it can be quite indulgent, and the love of luxury. Now, Venus rules Taurus as well as Libra. Remember, I said Venus rules Libra at the personality level? Well, it also rules Taurus at the personality level. Venus ruling Libra is so much about social grace and how people come together. Venus ruling Taurus is about beauty and physical beauty and beauty in form and the appreciation of beauty in the physical world. So that can be a beautiful thing. Taurians have a great eye for beauty and a great eye for creating beauty. And often there can be strong artistry that comes through Taurus. Um, some of the positive traits of Taurus have to do with the capacity to see beauty and the capacity to really manifest and ground and root and manifest beauty and manifest value. Taurus is a very financial sign. It's connected to uh, things of value and manifesting things of value. So, and in fact, at the esoteric level, this is interesting. And for those of you that are new to esoteric astrology, it's going to sound a little bit strange, but the ruling planet for Taurus is Vulcan. Okay. Vulcan is an undiscovered planet, and it's supposed to be very close to the sun, and it's the blacksmith of the gods, and it forges the self into shape so that we can hold more light. So Taurus at the highest levels uses its will to forge the physical world into shape, to hold light and to be a light bearer. And also the phrase for Taurus at the highest level is, I see, and when the eye is opened, all is illumined. So it has a lot to do with the third eye. It has a lot to do with seeing the beauty and light inherent in all things and looking beyond just the pure physical beauty. The color that streams through Taurus is deep, or that is associated with Taurus, is a deep blue, different than indigo, but similar, deep blue. And the ray that streams through is the fourth ray of harmony through conflict, and it's the artist ray. And it contains some of this struggle. It contains some of this agony and ecstasy and desire and detachment. When it comes to detriments and exaltation, interestingly, Mars, we're going to look at Mars once again. Mars is in detriment in Taurus, just as it's in detriment in Libra. In other words, it doesn't work as well through Taurus because Mars is hot-headed, feisty, forward-moving, and it's the young warrior, and Taurus slows that warrior down. Taurus slows that warrior down in the mud, in the muck, and you feel the warrior feels thwarted by the slowness. So at the personality level, Mars is in detriment in Taurus. The moon, however, is exalted in Taurus. Okay. The moon, which has so much to do with our emotional life and our comfort and our emotional comfort and our home, of course it loves to be in Taurus because Taurus is a sign of comfort. The moon rules Cancer, but it's exalted in Taurus. Like exaltations are sort of like, well, it's not the rulership, but it's almost as good. Okay. So if you have the moon in Taurus, the moon really loves to be there. The moon feels very comfortable in that position because it has a lot to do with physical comfort. Also, by the way, Pluto is in detriment as well in Taurus. And it's a little trickier to talk about, but Pluto loves to be in Scorpio. It loves to go to the depths. It loves to penetrate. It loves death and rebirth. And Taurus is much more interested in the beauty of the physical world and keeping things as they are. So Pluto doesn't work as effectively through this energy of Taurus until it's working at the esoteric level. And then you have this kind of Pluto Vulcan combination, which is just like the will comes in. Like some of the strongest people in the world. In fact, I think the strongest, I know this because of my husband, I think the strongest man alive is a Taurus. And he was also recently watching an arm wrestling documentary, and the man that was winning all the arm wrestlings was a Taurus, right? So it's like this, incredible strength that comes through Taurus, and incredible light. And the Buddha is connected to Taurus. So if we're going to go across the way and look, the polarity of Taurus is Scorpio. And this axis of Taurus Scorpio, this opposition, has a lot to do with desire and detachment. And it also has a lot to do with acquisition. Like Taurus has to do with your personal possessions, and Scorpio has to do with possessions that you hold in common with another. So this opposition has to do with finances, personal and collaborative, and also desire, Taurus, and detachment, required, Scorpio. So that's that opposition. Aries, Libra, self relationship, Taurus, Scorpio, desire, detachment, value, personal values, and values with the partner. So Scorpio. Okay. Scorpio is water. So now we've covered all the elements. Aries, fire; Libra, air; Taurus, earth; Scorpio, water. And Scorpio is also on the fixed cross. It's fixed water. Taurus is fixed earth. Scorpio is fixed water. It is deep. The water is dark. You dive in deep. You stay in the water. Scorpio is in the middle of the fall. It's in the middle of autumn. It's in the middle of that where everything is sort of dying. The leaves are coming off the trees, right? Everything is shedding. Everything is dying. The planetary rulers of Scorpio are at the personality level. There's two of them, Mars and Pluto. Okay. So once again, we have the warrior energy, but it's turned within. And we have Pluto, the energy of death and rebirth and regeneration, which rules Scorpio at the personality level, because Scorpio is all about death and rebirth, all about letting go, all about transforming the darkness to the light. So those two planets are both really potent in Scorpio at the personality level. The mantra at the personality level is quite powerful. It says, "And the word said, let Maya flourish and deception rule." So Scorpio at its wretched is wretched. It has a lot to do with illusion and deception and jealousy and darkness and betrayal and power games. And you're in the mud, you're in the muck, and really has a lot to do with the emotional plane, where there's all kinds of fear and loathing and power games, right? So there's a lot of hidden secrets, ugliness that's behind the scenes, that secrets that are not revealed, that you can really get caught in the early stages of Scorpio. At its highest level, Scorpio is stunning. It is the warrior. Warrior am I, and from the battle I emerge triumphant. It is the sign of power and depth and triumph and survival and tenacity and transmutation and transformation. It goes into the darkness and it shines. It sheds. It grabs the dark and it lifts it into the light. So it has so much to do with penetrating to the truth, getting to the heart of the matter, not ceasing until you get to the heart of the matter. Now, it's interesting because Mars continues to rule Scorpio at the esoteric level. And this is where the aspiring part of Mars kicks in. This is where the part that's like, I will win this battle. I will win the day. And the ultimate battle is between the soul and the personality. And that's what happens in Scorpio. It's like, will the personality reign? Will selfishness reign? Will fear reign? Or will the best self come to fruition? So, if you have Scorpio rising, you are here as a warrior. And, it's important as I go along here, as we're presencing the rising sign. So if you have Aries rising, you are here to pioneer new ideas. If you have Libra rising, you are here to bring the right relationship with yourself, and once you have that, to reach out and create it in the world, and to bring the law of right relationship out into the world. If you have Taurus rising, you're here to manifest beauty and light. in a solid, steadfast way. If you have Scorpio rising, you are here to be a warrior of truth. So I haven't been presencing the rising sign, but as you're hearing these positive qualities, this is what you are here for. Warrior am I, and from the battle I emerge triumphant. That's the Scorpio phrase. The color for Scorpio is crimson. Again, it's almost like blood red. It's that really intense red. And Scorpio has so much to do with blood. Aries is the outer battle, and Scorpio is the inner battle. And interestingly, again, the ray that pours through Scorpio is the fourth ray. Again, it's the ray of agony and ecstasy. So Taurus and Scorpio have so much to do with attachment. I love this. I want this. I want to eat this. I want to kiss this. I want to have this. I want to own this. And then Scorpio comes in and requires the detaching from that. It requires endings. It requires deaths. It requires letting go. And it will not cease until that detachment has occurred. So that's one way of looking at that polarity. And of course, with Taurus and Scorpio, we want beauty and depth married. Now, interestingly, Venus is in detriment in Scorpio. In other words, it doesn't feel so comfortable in Scorpio because Venus loves to magnetize. Venus loves to call in and have beauty attracted to it. It doesn't so much love to dive deep into the muck. It would much prefer, at a certain level, the quality of just love, wisdom, and beauty, and not having to dive into the muck. However, it will, if necessary, and it will bring its capacity to, it will bring the love wisdom into the muck, and that's what it does at its highest levels. But on a personality level, Venus is all about beauty and Scorpio is all about death and violence and darkness, and it doesn't particularly love to be there. So people that have Venus and Scorpio can get fascinated with the darkness and can get fascinated with, the secrets of life, but it doesn't manifest its love energy with a lot of ease with Venus and Scorpio. And the moon falls in Scorpio because if the moon is exalted in Taurus and feels comfortable in Taurus and, feels emotionally stable in Taurus, in Scorpio, it's going to take you for a wild ride. So it doesn't particularly love to be in Scorpio because it means that the emotional life is going to go on a pretty intense journey. However, if you have the moon in Scorpio, you better believe that you're here to let go of some of that scorpionic intensity and darkness. And that's part of the reason, any moon position, we're here to learn to let go of some of that. So we can work with these falls and detriments, and they're actually agents of great growth. Okay, now let's zip back to Gemini. And Gemini is the next air sign, and it's our first mutable sign. But let's say first it's an air sign. It's again a sign of exchange. It's connected to the third house. The houses go 1, 2, 3, right under the horizon. 1, 2, 3. It's connected to the third house. It's loves to, Gemini is interested in connecting and relating in communicating in writing. So it's an air sign and it's mutable, and mutable is about movement. This is our first mutable sign that we've talked about. And mutable, if we have cardinal, which goes boom, boom, we have fixed, which roots, and then we have mutable that changes and flows and never stays. And so people, that have strong Gemini, they're always moving. I have friends that have moved 25 times with strong Gemini. But there's a lightness to them and a quickness to them and a sharpness to them and a capacity to change, chameleon-like. So the mutability is one season merging into the next. So it's the end of spring, moving into summer, right? And so lots of things have to change in order for that to happen. Some of the difficult things about Gemini, they can be scattered. They can be overly talkative. They can be determined to just have the cold, hard facts. They just want the concrete mind. They don't want the heart married to it. There can be a desire to stay superficial, to stay at the top, to not go deep. Gemini and Scorpio couldn't be any more different. Scorpio wants to dive in. Gemini wants to stay at the top. The phrase for Gemini at the personality level is, and the word said, let instability do its work. Let instability do its work. So there is some kind of agitation with Gemini where there's so much movement and there's so many thoughts and there's so many ideas and there's so many words and there's so many, there's anxiety that it just sort of shakes you until it's out of your system. So there's a kind of instability that's a constant change that is very difficult for Gemini at its early stages. The planetary ruler at the personality level is Mercury, and Mercury is the winged messenger, and it flits from here to there, and it wants to talk to this person and then talk to that person and then take this class and then learn this. Gemini is very connected to early education and teaching and learning, and from what brother can I give and to what brother, from what brother can I take and to what brother can I give. It rules the hands. It's very interested in constant movement and communication, and it's mercurial, right? um Now, at a positive level, why does it do all this? It does all this to bring together people and ideas, to create goodwill through people meeting one another, ideas meeting one another, the exchange of information. And that's why Venus rules Gemini. Venus rules Gemini at the esoteric level, because Venus is interested in fusing things and is interested in bringing, forming love between two ideas, between two people. So it's not, it weaves a fabric together. And so, Gemini is really the fabric of love that underlies everything. And that's why the ray that pours through Gemini is the second ray, which is the ray of love, wisdom. And the phrase for Gemini is the esoteric phrase, is quite beautiful. It says, it's spoken from the perspective of the soul. And, in Gemini, what we want to do is steady the personality so that the soul can work through it, right? And the soul says, I see my other self. The soul sees the personality. I see my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. So the soul grows stronger and steadier, and the personality exhausts itself with its instability, and finally there can be a merging and a love wisdom. So the second ray of love wisdom pours through Gemini. It's a sign of goodwill, friendship, um, harmony. And it's not just about facts, it's about wisdom. The color that is connected with Gemini is yellow. Okay, bright yellow. And the Jupiter, interestingly, is in detriment in Gemini. It's in detriment. Now, that's where Jupiter is right now for all of us in the heavens. Jupiter is in Gemini. So on one hand, this is an amazing time to be connecting and with people and networking and getting our message out and writing and speaking and teaching. It's an amazing time. But Jupiter in Gemini, it can just be too much information. Jupiter loves to sort of go, it loves to go on the journey, on the quest, it's like we're headed that way, which is very Sagittarian. It rules Sagittarius. But Jupiter moving through Gemini is diffused. So it doesn't love to be there because it can scatter in a huge way. That's why for the next 6 months, we've really got to pay attention, because the opportunity is rich and ripe to communicate and to get our ideas out, but we could also just scatter it all to the winds. It doesn't love to work through Gemini. And interestingly enough, that's the only position to note, because nothing is exalted in Gemini and nothing falls in Gemini. So it's really just that Jupiter in Gemini that's in detriment. Okay. Now, if we were going to go across the way to Sagittarius, we have another fire sign. And across the way, that polarity between Gemini and Sagittarius has so much to do with mentality. It has so much to do with the mind. Gemini has to do with the concrete mind, and Sagittarius has to do with the big, visionary, more abstract mind at a certain level, okay? Gemini has to do with, with the more concrete, factual mind, and Sagittarius wants to blow the mind open and all kinds of consciousness expansion. So it has a lot to do with personal mind versus group mind as well, or the concrete facts versus the spiritual mind. So that whole axis, whenever you have strong Gemini or Sagittarius, there's a very strong mentality, okay, that comes through. There's a strong mind component that comes through. Sagittarius is a fire sign. Its cross, once again, its movement is mutable. So just like Gemini, it's on the go. It moves, it changes, it speaks, and then, takes off. It's on journeys. Both of these signs are journeying signs. Sagittarius is the end of fall, moving into winter. And so it has its own version of like, I'm going off here, I'm desiring this, I'm going off that way, I'm shooting my arrows. And it can get too spread out and too loosey-goosey. That's the danger of mutability. The beauty of mutability is that you can just shapeshift, okay? So some of the more difficult qualities of Sagittarius are that they're big, they take up space, they're brash, they're blunt, they're full of desire. And in fact, the phrase for Sagittarius is, and the word said, let food be sought. So it desires experience. It's got a kind of Taurian quality in that way. It's like, I want to try that, and I want to explore that, and I want to head off in this direction. It's hungry for experience, and it does not like to be reined in. And it will tell the truth sometimes, even if it hurts. Again, it's this blunt energy. And it sometimes is too big or too much or unrestrained in a way that can be dangerous. So, and the planetary ruler at the personality level is Jupiter. Okay. And Jupiter is the planet of travel. Sagittarius is the sign of travel. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. Jupiter says yes. Sagittarius, says yes. It's very much the danger of Jupiter is excess, and that really resonates with the Sagittarius quality, which is like it could be way too much. You could just spread your energies thin through your desire. So Jupiter, but Jupiter is a planet of inspiration. It's a teaching planet, and it loves to be in Sagittarius because Sagittarius loves to inspire, and it's visionary. The mantra at the highest level for Sagittarius is, I see the goal, I reach the goal, and then I see another. So what has to happen with Sagittarius is all that energy has to be reined in, and that fire has to be shot like an arrow, like a fiery arrow towards your goal. And the vision has to be strong enough and potent enough to carry you forward on your spiritual path. So if you're of Sagittarius rising, you are here to inspire through your actions, through your buoyancy, through your largesse, through your freedom. Going backwards, if you're here for Gemini rising, you're here with a message. You're here with words. You're here to connect people. You're here to bring them together. Sagittarius has much more of a forward moving, like, follow me, I'll take you on this journey. The esoteric ruler of Sagittarius is the Earth, which is very interesting. So the esoteric ruler, basically Sagittarians, once they have the vision, it has a lot to do with like, how can I help and heal the Earth or humanity on it? And Sagittarians can have very tangible ideas about how to work with the Earth and sustainability, and even have philosophies that help us grow on the Earth. So the Earth is the esoteric ruling planet of Sagittarius. The color for Sagittarius is also rich blue. There's a lot of blue connection, and it would be even interesting to look at the colors that are the similar colors with different signs. So, for example, Taurus is a blue color, Libra is a blue color, and Sagittarius is a blue color, and we can find resonances with those. They're different colors, So Sagittarius is rich blue. And interestingly, the rays that pour through Sagittarius are the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th. So again, we have the 4th ray of harmony through conflict, a lot of the adventure. We have the 5th ray of science and truth. Sagittarians are interested in truth. And we have the sixth ray of devotion and idealism. And this pours through Sagittarius. There's a lot of Sagittarians are incredibly idealistic. Like, it's all possible to dream the impossible dream. Okay. Um, Now, in terms of detriments, Mercury is in detriment in Sagittarius because Mercury is so much about flitting from here to there and connecting and uh, listening and then speaking and sharing and building bridges. It's not as interested in the boom, we're headed that way. So people with Mercury and Sagittarius definitely often are very blunt and can exaggerate the truth and can blow it out of proportion. And so, because Mercury isn't so comfortable there, because Mercury would rather have the facts and would rather have the concrete facts and marry those first before you have the blast of inspiration. So Mercury isn't so comfortable in Sagittarius. However, it is, and there's no exaltations or detriments with Sagittarius. So once again, it's like Gemini. There's only one planet that's in detriment. Okay, now of course, things are. I'm moving along here, but there's never enough time. However, let me just take a moment before I do the last few and just quickly ask if up to this point there are any questions. Um, so I'm going to take a peek and just make sure. And, if there are, raise your hand. And if you're just on for the ride, you can make a big woo, okay. Because it's a lot of information coming at you. And I want you to just trust that it's like, it's washing over you and you can take it in over time. And that's why I love these 10 weeks, because we're really going to be able to luxuriate once we get to the planets, and we're going to be able to steep in these energies really thoroughly. But the lay of the land must be in place. So all right, then I don't see any questions, so I'm just gonna proceed. Okay, so let's move back now, boom, to the fourth house, or to Cancer. Okay, so Cancer is the next water sign, and it's connected to the fourth house. And Cancer is a cardinal sign. Okay, so far, what cardinal signs do we have? We have Aries, Libra, and Cancer. So Cancer starts summer. It launches summer. It doesn't launch summer like Aries launches spring. Aries launches spring with a masculine driving energy. Cancer launches summer with a feminine, spherical, circular, embracing energy. Okay, so it's as dynamic because Cardinal is assertive and forward moving and is full of like initiative, but it's full of initiative through its nourishment and caretaking. Okay, we have actually a lot of strong Cancer energy in this class, and a lot of strong Libra, and a lot of strong Capricorn and Virgo. We don't have any Aries or any Aquarius as far as the rising sign or the sun sign. Okay, so Cancer is cardinal water. And for every sign, you can say, okay, it's cardinal fire, fixed earth, mutable air, cardinal water. Do you know? So I would love you to actually flesh that out as you go, and make note of that. And before I forget, one thing that I would really love you to do is as a homework assignment is I want you to take a big white piece of paper and I want you to put your rising sign at the center, Aries, Taurus, whatever it is. And based on the whole week's musing and meditation, and based on what we're doing here tonight, I want you to just like have offshoots that have words that that carry the expression of that sign. So it becomes almost like a sun that have all these different qualities. It might say water, it might say compassion, it might say, whatever it is, but just let it be almost like an image or a collage that just with your rising sign. Okay. I might say more about that, but so Cancer, the planetary ruler is the moon. Okay. Cancer is water, it's feeling, and the moon is the planet that is connected to the emotional life. At the phrase at the ordinary level for Cancer is interesting. It says, and the word said, let isolation be the rule, and yet the crowd exists. Okay, it's very powerful. Let isolation be the rule, and yet the crowd exists. Cancers love their homes. They love to be alone. At a certain level, they love to be protected. It's a sign of security. They love to feel like, they've worked it all out so that they're secure. And yet the crowd exists, and yet there are those people out there that want something to do with me. So at the early level, Cancer is in the shell and it's peeking out and maybe has one antenna out, but it's really doesn't want to go out because it's got it all worked out. It's got its little home on its back and it's all cool, and don't disturb me. So let isolation rule, and yet the crowd exists. And at early stages, it's just painful to emerge with any kind of vulnerability as a Cancer, because it's just, I've got to hold it in or I will be wounded. So so let's just say some of the difficulties are shyness, overprotection, reactivity, because they hold it in, and then they rage out because they've stored things so long and they've held things so long, and they've put things away. They've been hurt and they've held it and nursed it, and then at some point it just has to come out. So, there's over caution with Cancer. There's a huge protection with Cancer. It's a beautiful sign. The highest level is ruled by Neptune, which is the god of the waters, which is the god of sensitivity, which is the god of impressionability, intuition, imagination, sensitivity. And so Cancer at its highest levels is all about being a great mother for the world, and including humanity in your arms. Sometimes Cancers can get very tribal and just be like, this is my little family and I'm just going to protect them. But the ultimate journey with Cancer is to be like, humanity is my family and I have to protect it. So there's incredible need to wrap its arms around and to nourish. Okay. And the journey is out of the dark into the light. The journey is out of the shell into the light of day. It moves towards Leo. The color for Cancer is violet. And the ray that moves through is the 3rd and the 7th. So there's, again, lots of active intelligence coming through Cancer. They're great, resourceful business people. And there's also the 7th ray of the heaven coming to the earth, the new plan. And this is more mysterious and we'll talk about it some more, but let's just for now say that the 3rd and 7th ray come through Cancer, and I will come back to Cancer and the 7th ray. The beautiful phrase for the spiritual mantra of Cancer is, I build a lighted house and therein dwell. Okay, so it wants to build its lighted house. It wants to build its home. It wants to build its physical home. It wants to build a home for humanity. It wants humanity to have a home. It wants everyone to be nourished. It wants everyone to be fed. It wants everyone to have a home. At its highest level, Cancer is deeply concerned with humanity's home. Yeah. Detriments, interesting. There's a lot going on. Saturn is in detriment in Cancer because Saturn is much more authority, much more strict, much more, responsible and rigid, and the lines are drawn. And Cancer is a sign of feeling. So, the feeling was squashed with Saturn in Cancer, or the desire to nourish is sometimes squashed by the rules around it. Now, ultimately, Saturn in Cancer is a beautiful combination because it's very serious about wanting to nourish others. But in a chart, Saturn and Cancer is the physical body, and Saturn can be like, well, I'm going to create lessons and tests around the physical body. So it can be a combination that is initially painful and ultimately a beautiful opportunity to grow. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. Jupiter loves to be in Cancer because it Jupiter says yes to the idea of inclusion. Jupiter says yes to the idea of wrapping arms around and caring for, and it wants to see things grow. Okay. Neptune is also exalted. It's interesting because Neptune, it's exalted in Cancer and it's a ruler of Cancer. Okay. And Mars falls in Cancer. Again, this is similar to Mars in detriment in Taurus and in detriment in Libra, because Mars is this warrior and Cancer just is a big nourisher and, builder and quiet builder. And so Mars, I've used the image before, but it's like this warrior in an apron, or it's this warrior with, oven mitts on or something, right? It's like, what do I do with this? I want to nourish. I want to fight, and Cancer wants to nourish. So it's tricky. Okay. So the sign opposite Cancer is Capricorn. The polarity of Cancer Capricorn, that axis has everything to do with security. Cancer is interested in personal security. Capricorn is interested in more of like group security. It's connected to government. You could also say home, the security around home. And Capricorn is interested in the security around your work in the world. Okay. So that whole axis is all about parenting ourselves, parenting others, establishing a secure base, establishing safety. If you have strong Cancer Capricorn, those are going to be huge themes in your life. By the way, if you have Cancer rising, guess what you're here to do? You're here to build a lighted house for humanity, and you have to start with yourself. So Capricorn is an earth sign. It's another earth sign. It is on the cardinal cross. It's the final cardinal sign. So Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. It launches us into winter. It is very determined. It climbs its mountain. Some of the more negative traits, it can be very cool, cold, cruel. It can be, a leader that is without feeling. It can be so duty bound and responsible that it's just not a lot of fun to be around. It can be so serious and full of gravitas that it's just, enough already. The planetary ruler at both levels is Saturn. At the exoteric level and the esoteric level is Saturn. Okay. And on the ordinary level, the mantram is quite interesting. It says, and the word said, let ambition rule and the door stand wide. Let ambition rule and the door stand wide. And it has so much to do with the ambition seizing a person, like you're driven to just have material success. And the door stand wide is also a very esoteric phrase. It has a lot to do with Cancer as the doorway into incarnation and Capricorn as the doorway out of incarnation. And eventually these doorways become looked at in different ways. So Cancer is looked at like, when we are born into incarnation, it's a kind of death. And when we come out of incarnation, it's a kind of life. And this is another sort of esoteric discussion to have. But there's a certain point where that shifts, and where we're not going to incarnate anymore, right? But we're certainly all on the path of incarnation right now, and the door is standing wide. But the most important thing that for you to know about Capricorn is like the danger is that you're just overly ambitious and overly you're cruel. You're cruel with your determination to reach the top of the mountain. However, beautiful traits are, total commitment, determination, seriousness of purpose, intention, the ability to parent, the ability to lead the way, the ability to perfect, to be at the summit of the mountain. And that's why the esoteric phrase is, lost am I in light supernal, yet on that light I turn my back. Because the light supernal is at the top of the mountain. The light supernal is this aspect of consciousness where you are standing in the light and you've summited. When have you been at the top of a mountain? It's like it's crystal clear and you understand things that you haven't understood before. And that's the Capricorn experience. But then you have to let go and go back down the mountain. Okay, you have to go back down the mountain and share it with others. So give a Capricorn a mission and a mountain to climb, and they'll climb it, and give them a group to lead, and they'll lead. And so it's a very responsible sign, and very purposeful. So, danger of cruelty, but also incredible authority. And ultimately, we all want to be the authority. We want our soul to be the authority, and we want to be really living our lives with intention and purpose. So, if you're here as Capricorn rising, you're here to climb a mountain. You're here to live with intention and purpose. You're here to lead from the inside out, to own your leadership from the inside out, and then go out into the world and say, come on. The color associated with Capricorn is green. And as far as detriments go, the moon is in detriment in Capricorn, because the moon wants to feel. The moon loves to be in Cancer. It wants to feel. It wants to be mothered. It wants to be nourished. It wants to be fed. It wants to be comforted. And Capricorn is not about that. Capricorn is almost militaristic in some ways, and controlled, and everything's okay, and disciplined. So the moon doesn't love to be in Capricorn, but it learns a heck of a lot in Capricorn. So yeah, I mean, every detriment position, it's like, does this planet really want to work through this sign? Not particularly. It's not going to be easy. But once it learns how to work through the sign, you build in increasing light. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. Mars loves to be in Capricorn, because Mars says, oh, all right, finally, I'm a warrior, and you're going to give me a mountain to climb. Hallelujah, right? So it loves to be in Capricorn because it gets work done. Jupiter falls in Capricorn. Jupiter is interested in expansion. Jupiter is interested in growth, and Capricorn is much more interested in logistics and order. So Jupiter doesn't have its same sense of largesse and expansion and consciousness growing. However, Jupiter in Capricorn is great for a ruler of the world, a ruler of the United States, the ruler of another country, because it brings in expansion and discipline. But Jupiter doesn't love to hang out there. It's not its freest expression. Okay. Zipping back down to Leo. Leo is a fire sign. Leo is also a fixed fire sign. It's like a pot-bellied stove. It's like the energy of generosity streaming forward. If Aries is a match, Leo is the stove that warms all near. However, at its most negative, it's proud, it's isolated, it's an isolated ruler, it's me, 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 look at me. It can be cowardly, it can be self-absorbed, narcissistic. It's the individual alone, okay? And that's why at the mantra of Leo at that level is, and the word said, this is great, let other forms exist, I rule, right? Let other forms exist, I rule, right? So there's this kind of, because I was born to rule, I was born a queen, So at a certain level, it's just, it can be very, just self-absorbed, and not interested in community, not interested in humanity, only insofar as they will adore him or her. Okay. So, but obviously there are beautiful positive traits. Leo has to do with the expression of the radiant self, capital S. It has to do with generosity. It has to do with the recognition that we are not just individual selves, that as we identify with the soul, then we identify with the group soul, and we identify with humanity's soul. And ultimately we are all of one soul. So Leo expands its idea of its identity. It expands that. Okay, I just realized that I did not give you the rays for Capricorn 1, 3, and 7. Just write them down. Capricorn 1, 3, and 7. Okay, but Leo, it's interested in identity, and that's why it's interesting, because the first ray and the fifth ray pour through Leo, and the first ray is will and power, and the fifth ray is about an exact kind of science. So Leo says, well, who am I and who am I not? There's a whole sensitivity about self. Well, who am I and who are you, and are we one? And it's very interested in the science of identity. There's a whole cosmology of man that we could study, which is like, yes, there's the personality, and yes, there's the soul, and yes, there's the spirit. And so what I are you? What capital I are you? You know, it's a huge question for a Leo. Um, the rulers of Leo are it's the sun. It's the sun at all levels. However, at the esoteric level, the sun veils Neptune. And a veil says, the veil stays in place until humanity is ready to really receive the energy of the veiled planet. So we're not quite ready to receive the energy of Neptune and Leo, but we have to look at Neptune as a ruler of Leo. But the sun, it's shining, it's radiant, it's ruling Leo, and Neptune as the energy that's veiled is all about sensitivity, the sensitivity to the self. Who am I? Who am I not? The color is orange for Leo, and the spiritual mantra is I am that, and that am I. So it's this expansion of self. I am that, and that am I. So it's again how the I grows, and we get out of our own little proud, isolated self, and we recognize that we are one I. You know, Kate, my daughter, used to say, and some of you have heard this, but it used to say, instead of I love you, used to say, I, you, I, you, I, you, which is so perfect because to me that is I love you, and it's recognizing the I-ness that we share. Leo, Saturn is in detriment in Leo. You know, Leo wants to shine forward, wants to be the queen, and Saturn puts some limitations on that and some restrictions on that and some heaviness on that. So it doesn't love to be in Leo. And also Mercury doesn't love to be in Leo because Mercury is very connected to Aquarius. Mercury falls in Leo. So it's not very comfortable there because Mercury, again, is much more interested in exchange, and Leo has a lot to do with, haha, here I am, see me. But Mercury is more interested in weaving and exchanging, so it's not as comfortable there. The sign opposite Aquarius is that polarity, that Leo Aquarius polarity, uh, or the 5th house, 11th house polarity, has a lot to do with creative expression. So it's the Leo solo expression and Aquarius group expression. So it has a lot to do with personal expression and group expression. And Aquarius is an air sign, and it is a fixed sign, so it's fixed air. It can get very detached and aloof. You know, it can remove itself from emotional chaos. These are some of the more difficult qualities of Aquarius. It has its own stubbornness because it's got a fixity around what it sees, and it can detach itself and remove itself and feel different and feel like a lone wolf. And I'm the only one that sees this, and I'm the only one that knows this, and I'm the only one that is, you know, rebelling against this. So there can be a feeling of isolation with Aquarius. The exoteric ruler of Aquarius is Uranus. It used to be Saturn, and Saturn is still connected on some levels, but it is Uranus, which is the god of change and the god of revolution and the god of rebellion. And so at a certain level, Aquarians just want to be different for different sake. You know, they just want to be different. And they sometimes merge with their groups, and they find their little group and they all dress in black, or they find their little group and they all do one thing and they're all of a piece. Later, Aquarians are much more interested in, you know, the full authenticity of the self, but early they can just be like, my friends, we're all alike, and that's the way we like it, right? So but at the and the phrase, the mantra is interesting. It says, and the word said, let desire inform, be ruler. And so this is just speaks to the Aquarius fixity and the tendency to to root in you know, Aquarius is very interested in sort of science, concrete science as well. And so it can get stuck in the form life instead of abstracting from it at a certain level. But at a gorgeous level, Aquarians are innovators, improvisers. They are ones that see the world, see the new age approaching. They say we want to break out of tradition. We want to try new things. We know that the group must be the vehicle. It's no longer like all of our little individual selves giving our power away. It's ourselves sitting in a circle, and each of us must give our gift. Each of us must give our Leo gift. So they are innovative, experimental, group oriented, affirming the group, uplifting the group. And the phrase is, water of life am I, poured forth for thirsty men. Water of life am I, poured forth for thirsty men. Quite beautiful. The ray that comes through is the fifth ray, the ray of science, the ray of science. And it makes a lot of sense. Aquarius will bring in the new sciences that have to do with the subtler energies as well. The detriments and exaltations. The sun is in detriment in Aquarius for the same reasons that it's in detriment in Libra, in that, you know, the sun loves to be in Leo and shine forth, but in Aquarius, it's the group. So how can the sun shine through the group? So it feels a little bit uncomfortable in Aquarius because it doesn't know how to shine as individually, right? And Mercury is exalted in Aquarius. Mercury loves to be in Aquarius. So if you have Mercury in Aquarius, you know, it's the innovative mind. It's the alive and experimental mind. Okay, it's 8:00. So I'm going to be good about time, and all you Virgo and Pisces risings, please bear with me. But what we'll do is we will start with that in our next class. And if you are hungry and want some language around it, I'll email you or something. But I think it's important that we stick to our time frame. And it's so much information, and I just invite you to steep in it, and I just invite you to dream it and swim around in it, and find questions that we can also address next time. So we'll start with Virgo Pisces, and then we're going to look at the sun and the moon and the houses next time. So for now, if we addressed your rising sign, do that little collage, do that little circle, and do all the offshoots and ask, what am I here to be? What is here to rise within me? What is ascending in me? These are all the rising sign questions. What qualities do I want to emanate when I'm 82 years old, if not sooner, you know, and just share with the world? What qualities do I want to be? Okay. And just start playing with colors. You could use some of the colors of the signs. And, I think what I will do is just send a little note tomorrow that has a few things about Virgo and Pisces just to satisfy for those ones of you that are waiting. And this will be up tomorrow. I will send you the link. It feels funny not to hear any of your voices, but this will happen next time. Welcome. This is a long journey. So much love to you. And I'll see you next Tuesday, okay, at the same time. And meanwhile, please contact me if there are any questions. Okay, take care. Bye.